Good morning, everyone. My name is Verna Barrientos. I use she, her pronouns, and I have the honor of being your worship associate for today's UU Coastside Community Sunday service, along with Noreen Cooper-Hevlin. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. So maybe you're here for the first time, maybe out of curiosity, maybe because of a bicycling thing, or maybe you've been here before, maybe even a longtime member. Welcome. Know that everyone is welcome here. Today is a gallery view Sunday format, our third Sunday format. The order of service is simplified. Joys and Concerns is live. The sermon is by one of our longtime members. And afterward, there's interactive discussion in breakout rooms. A link to the order of service is in the chat. Today, UUCC warmly welcomes back David Marsland as our worship leader today. And to this, I add my own extra warm welcome to David as well, because he's my husband. And I like hearing what he has to say, usually. Now David is here. David here, he's a cycling enthusiast. And he is well aware that death looms over his shoulder each time he rides. He'll talk to us about how accepting our mortality can help us live life to the fullest. And now Noreen leads us in the lighting of our chalice.
Welcome, everyone. Please join us in reading these chalice lighting words, but first, let me light the candle flame. So these words are from the Reverend Kirk Lodeman Copeland, and the title is To a Dancing Flame. We light this chalice in honor of the reality of yin and yang, the yin of darkness that dances around the yang of the flame, the yin of work that surrenders to the yang of play, and the yin of doing that seeks balance with the yang of being. Born into a world of opposites, may we discover wholeness as yin and yang unite.
Before I introduce our guest speaker, Bill Hevlin will read us a poem he wrote about the joys of cycling.
So these days on my desk are stacks of old poetry notebooks. And 32 years ago, I wrote a trio of poems about bicycling for uphill, on top, and downhill. I'm reading the one for on top, entitled Wonderment, which I believe fits well with today's topic. Wonderment. I dismount, aching, slow, feeling stiff, feeling bold, looking up, glancing round at the view that I've found. No one's clapping. I feel good. I feel happy, understood. No one's waiting. I don't care. I've made it on a dare. I'm alone and seeing far. In the distance stares my heart. I'm not thinking, just content, having made it as I meant. Now I'm tired, aching slow, feeling stiff, feeling bold. And my legs, they tingle some from the hilltop they have won. I'm not thinking, just content, having climbed to wonderment.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. It is my pleasure to introduce my husband, David Marsland, our worship leader for today's service. David is a recent graduate of the Shared Pulpit class and has previously led UUCC services on climate action and loving kindness. And I can attest personally to the fact that David loves to bicycle. He has 4 sons and 3 granddaughters and wants to do all he can to ensure that they live in a world full of loving kindness. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Verna. It's such an honor to be introduced by my wonderful wife. Great working with you. Part of finding my Zen has been getting comfortable with death. As a bicyclist, when I'm on the road, death often looms over my left shoulder. In America, we ride on the right side of the road, roads that were built for cars. Well, originally, they were built largely for bicycles, but then the cars took off, and then more and more cars and roads were built, and bicycles were almost forgotten. Bicycles are still almost forgotten today. Roadside shrines to fallen riders with ghost bikes help us remember. As I mentioned, I'm well aware that death looms over my left shoulder. I ride with a mirror on the left side of my handlebars. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of death in that mirror. I'm often glancing at that mirror, as one does when driving, with the realization that one distracted driver, one texting driver, one oversized trailer, one drunk driver could be enough to force me off the road to crash horribly, or just plain obliterate me from behind, or from ahead, as I discovered many years ago when a distracted SUV driver turned left directly into my path, fracturing my nose and tearing vertebrae in my neck and back. I live with that pain every day, yet still I ride. Just as bicyclists must be mindful of the hazards of the road, drivers, please be mindful of bicyclists and pedestrians. Please remember that your car or truck could become an instrument of death in one distracted moment. Is that text really that important? So why do I keep riding with death looming over my shoulder? Because I love it, because it makes me feel alive, because it reminds me we can do a lot under human power. For decades, I commuted to work largely through bicycling and transit. I take my bicycle to the store. I bicycle whenever possible if I can get there without a car. Bicycling brings me joy. I love the freedom. I love being outdoors. I love the wind in my face. I love riding with my friends and making new friends on big rides. I love the challenge of catching up to those ahead of me, and they're usually ahead of me. I've always loved flying down the hills. Now I love climbing them too. There's a certain zen to climbing, grinding up the mountain, soaking in the beauty of nature all around me, trying not to think too much about how much further I have to climb, yet proud of how far I've climbed already. This month, I've been riding in the Bike Hut Challenge in San Gregorio with my coastside bicycling friends. From the Bike Hut near Highway 1, we climb over 8 miles and almost 2,000 vertical feet through the astonishingly beautiful Creekside Redwoods forest up to Skyline Boulevard. We're doing this to raise funds for Abundant Grace Coastside Worker, who provide work and job training for many unhoused people. And we're doing it for the sheer joy and challenge. Many compete for the best times. I'm just happy to enjoy the ride to the top. I'm not competitive like people in the Tour de France. I've never been one to enjoy working out on stationary machines indoors. I like to move and get places, enjoying the scenery as I ride. On a bike, I can move pretty fast. Almost every year for the last 20 years, I've done one really big bike ride, hundreds of miles long. Training for a big ride can be really hard and so much fun at the same time. Joy and pain are intermingled. By the last day of a big ride, I'm finally almost enough shape to start the ride. I started doing long rides by signing up to ride 480 miles around the Bay Area in a week, climbing most of the big mountains. This is about 20 years ago. The ride was called Go Greenbelt. We raised funds for the Greenbelt Alliance, advocating for preserving open space and smart development. The other riders were incredible, mostly experienced cyclists with a passion for the environment. They inspired me to ride faster and do more. I was so not ready for this ride. I hadn't ridden more than 20 miles for over 20 years. I had a heavy, older 16-speed steel bike with no low gears. Against all advice, just weeks before the ride, I brought my first real road bike. Just when I thought I could ride pretty fast, I started trying to climb hills and realized I couldn't climb fast at all. So I made myself climb a lot of hills and got a little faster. Again, the struggle of climbing led to great joy. I'd ride with real cyclists and struggle to keep up. The one advantage I had was I was big and liked to ride fast. So I'd fly down hills as fast as possible, then pedal hard to coast halfway up the next one. I love passing riders going downhill who had just left me so far behind climbing hills. They'd pass me climbing the next hill. I'm less reckless now, but I still love using my momentum to descend quickly and coast up part of the next hill. Eventually, the big Go Greenbelt ride was no more after the leader left for another organization. Then I discovered the Climate Ride, where we ride hundreds of miles for climate action. Here's one of my Climate Ride water bottles. I've done many rides with them, some from Arcata near the Oregon border all the way back to San Francisco in 5 days. I've met incredible people on climate rides doing real climate work. They're so inspirational. Fundraising has gotten easier through the years as I built my network of supporters. Now I mostly create a Facebook fundraiser. Be sure to thank all those who donate. Many come back and donate again. The great thing about Climate Ride is we can choose our beneficiaries. I ride for causes like the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Sierra Club, Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, and now Coastside on Bikes. I want to make as much of a difference for the climate as possible and have a lot of fun bicycling with amazing people. In between rides, I bicycle all year long to attempt to keep in shape. My very first climate ride started out beautifully. We joyfully rode through warm, sunny weather deep into the redwoods and the Avenue of the Giants. That night, the rain began. By morning, it felt like a river was running through my tent, or at least under it. We spent 3 out of the next 4 days riding through pouring rain. Nothing brings a group together like braving the elements. We could either bitch or bond, and we chose to bond. This climate ride will forever be the year of the storm riders. To this day, I'm still friends with many of my fellow storm riders. Since then, I've ridden over a dozen climate rides, trying to make an impact on climate change. We don't need to burn all this gasoline to move around in space. We don't need to burn down the only planet we'll ever have. And when we drive, we're just sitting. We're passive. We're getting weaker with every mile we drive. When I ride, with every revolution of the pedals, I may be one step closer to death. And yet, in the meantime, I'm alive. I'm getting closer, getting around full of joy, and experiencing the beauty all around me. Death often looms over my shoulder as a big black SUV. Death looms over my shoulder as an oversized truck overflowing with tools and an oversized trailer that just might take me out if the driver forgets he's driving it. Those garden tools projecting way too far from that big truck just might become the Grim Reaper's scythe for me. So yeah, I keep an eye on my rearview mirror. Lately, I got myself a Garmin radar. Technology provides many useful tools. The radar beeps at me whenever death approaches from behind. I've grown more comfortable with death. I'm less afraid to die. I don't want to die though. I love my life, and every day that I bicycle fills me with joy. You may choose not to face death riding a bicycle on Highway 1, yet death walks all too close to each of us. We never know how much time we have left on this earth. So let's live while we can. On my bicycle, I feel more alive, and my heart, lungs, and legs get stronger. On a recent weekend, I rode over 90 miles through Sonoma with over 100 other riders for the Climate Ride Green Fondo. It was fantastic, such incredible beauty, such wonderful, inspirational people. I took some time-lapse videos from my phone clamped to my handlebars. It really is scary to watch those videos and see all the deadly cars zooming past just inches away, knowing that any one of them could kill or maim me or my friends. Yet, we have the right to be there on the shoulder of that gorgeous road, with death not far behind. We have the right to move around under human power, and I love it. The knowledge that death looms over my shoulder helps remind me to live each day and to let my friends and family know how much I love them. I may not be here tomorrow, but if I die bicycling, I'll die happy. I've been all too close to death. In 2014, my late wife, Susan, was diagnosed with stage 4 sarcoma, and she passed away later that year. Several years before she was diagnosed with a cancer that would kill her, we were doing one of the things that she loved the most. We were hiking out in the woods to a spot that we loved. We stopped to meditate under a beautiful rock. In front of this rock, I snapped a picture of Susan wrapped in a blanket, gazing peacefully skyward. Around this time, she told me she'd love to grow old with me, but if she had to die, that she could die peacefully. That was 2 years before she got the cancer. She didn't want to die, but she was ready. The knowledge that death could take us at any time caused Susan to live a full and vibrant life, even after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. 6 months into her death sentence, she wrote in a journal, live life to the fullest and make each doubt count. This quote lives on along with that lovely picture on the card we gave out at her celebration of life. I'm honored to have spent over 3 decades lovingly bonded with the mother of my children. Frankly, I'm not sure what to say to our sons on Mother's Day, so I just try to let them know I love them. I'll talk with them more about getting comfortable with death and living life to the fullest every day. After my late wife, Susan, died, I grieved terribly, and I tried to understand how it is that she became comfortable enough with death to die peacefully. I'm starting to understand. I'm so fortunate to have since found another great love. I met Verna and married her almost 4 years ago. Verna's family is Mexican, and she loves the tradition of Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Not only does death loom over our shoulders, but our loved ones who died are as close as our hearts. El Dia de los Muertos celebrates our loved ones and keeps their memories and spirits alive. As painful as it can be to talk about my late wife, Susan, even now in the 9th year since she died, I still talk about her. I will continue to keep her love alive. Susan became comfortable with the notion that she was going to die. We're all going to die. I'm getting more comfortable with this notion of being ready to die peacefully. I'm in no hurry to pass on to whatever comes next, but I'm closer to being ready. The knowledge that death looms over my shoulder as I fly along joyfully on my bicycle helps me appreciate the wonder of life and all those that I love. Remembering that I don't know when I will die reminds me to show my wife and my sons and our granddaughters and parents and family and friends how much I love and appreciate them. I hope you find your Zen. I hope you find a way to make a difference. I hope you find a way to become comfortable with your own certain death, however far away that may be. I hope you live joyfully and mindfully, even as death may loom over your shoulder.
Wow. Beautiful music and beautiful words. Thank you, David, for the important reminder for each of us to live life to the fullest. And as David says, there is joy in learning to climb hills, to embrace climbing hills. Doing what seems difficult. When we embrace these tasks, we discover in these tasks much joy. And physicists will tell us the energy we expend by climbing hills, it is not destroyed, but transformed into potential, in this case, potential energy. Finding joy by climbing up hills. This is the essence of the practice of generosity. By contributing to this community, we invest in this community. We too add to its potential. And in the giving itself, we discover in ourselves the spirit of this community, the joy of belonging, the wonderment of belonging. To continue our UU voice here on the coast side, we depend on all of you as members of our community. We depend on contributions from all of you. We depend on your generous spirit, on this community's careful cultivation of generous spirit, so that this community can also live fully in one another and continue to do justice. That this community can step up to its potential.
We will now extinguish the candle flame. So please join me now in reading these words, these closing words by Elizabeth Selle-Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now for our closing hymn, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple." Once again, we are reaching back into the UUCC music archives for this beautiful song sung by Mo Robinson. And let's remember what David had to say about the simple joys of bicycling as we listen or sing along.
When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis the gift to be simple, the gift to be free, the gift to come down where we ought to be. When we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come